This is a prepaid debit call from
Jono.
An inmate at the correctional institution.
To accept this call, press 0.
One of the wildest experiences that I've ever had was actually getting an opportunity to sleep and live with a murderer. Someone
You
who,
mean an opportunity, dog? Like, it sounds like you just won the lottery.
it ain't the lottery, but when I say opportunity, man, it's because that's not something that you ever think you'll have a chance to do. And I'm not saying it's a chance, right? Like, it's not a good thing, but like, it's just not something that I ever thought I would get to experience or that I would experience, period, right? And I remember that I got a chance to, not a chance, I keep saying a chance, but what I'm saying is, man, like, they put this man in my cell and I knew nothing about him. And he's older. He's been through some things and you can see it in his face. At first, he seems like like any other guy. I don't know anything about him. When you're in places like this, you don't ask too many questions. I had to learn that lesson real early on, right? Like, you shouldn't ask these guys too many questions because they will disappoint you a lot of times with the answers, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times in there I got really close to a person and then you find out that they've done something really heinous. And it's like, how can I be friends with a guy like this? Or how can I continue to hang out with this guy? Or, how can I continue to just like show other people in this place that I'm willing to hang out with guys that have done things like this, right? But so you stop asking, right? There gets to a point where you're just like, I don't even care. I don't care what you've done. I don't want to ask. If you want to tell me, that's a whole nother thing, right? So me and him are in there, we're talking, and naturally in conversation it comes up. Like, I'm like, man, I don't know how long you been down, right? Like, how long have you been doing time? He hits me with 56 years.
Damn.
56 years, man. Me and him are sitting in this cell, and he's been doing time.
How old is he?
He was late 60s. Like he
he's been there since like he was like a teenager.
Yeah, like late teens, maybe like 18, 19, like yeah. In and out. He had mentioned to me that he had been out maybe twice. And anyways, man, look. So me and him are talking. I'm like, man, when you've been down 57 years or so, like, what did you do? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what got you that kind of time, right? Like, I got 3 years, right? For breaking 3 F1 felonies, right? And, F1 felonies is the highest felony that you can get. But of course it's, I was there for drug trafficking and I'm very transparent about that. But drug trafficking is right up there with murder, sexual assault, rape, things of that nature, right? Really, those heinous things that we talked about. And so I knew he had an F1 felony. Definitely knew that.
Oh, yeah.
But what I did not know was, man,
which one?
Like, what did you do, right?
Which
like,
one?
What kind of man are you, right? And so one day we're just talking and, he tells me, he's like, yeah, man, like, I'm in here for murder. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, like, that's... this is happening. Like, right, I'm having a conversation with this man and, he let me have it. Told me exactly what he was there for, right? So we get to talking a little bit more. So at this point, I know he's there for murder and he gets to telling me about the first time he killed a man, right? And of course, I can't put my man's information out there, right? I'm not going to give his name out or nothing. But what I will say is that, he went by Spot, right? I'll give a nickname to him, right? But he went by Spot. And so Spot tells me that the first time he killed a man, he killed a sheriff, right? He killed a police officer.
Yo.
Yeah, right? And I'm in it, right? Like, I mean, this is story time, like, on 10, right? Like, because this is real life. This ain't no man telling me about something he, how people will tell you a story and clearly it's over... Right, it's more exaggerated, right? Yeah, exactly. It's made to sound cooler than it is. Nah, man, my man's pulled out newspaper clippings. My man's pulled out he's like, no, I did this.
Bro, he had receipts.
Had receipts, right? So I'm invested. I mean, I don't know how else to say. I mean, in prison, you're in a cell 23 hours a day. At times, you can be, we ain't got nothing to do in there. So am I interested? Am I tuned into this? Absolutely. And he tells me that what happened was that his father got sent to prison over something that he did. Right? He lived in a small town somewhere in Ohio, and when he was living there, basically everybody in that neighborhood knew that him and his brothers were like the troublemakers, like almost like the Dukes of Hazzard. You know what I mean? Like everyone in the neighborhood knew, oh, those Duke boys, right? Like type deal. And so everybody in the area knew that they were the troublemakers, and so there was, they were bootleggers. They would sell a lot of alcohol, illegally, and that's what him and his family did, right? And he said that there was a sheriff that wanted to take them down.
Damn. He was from the Prohibition era, dog.
No, he wasn't from the Prohibition era. He ain't that old, right? Like I was like, but making alcohol illegally, you can't do that. Moonshine and all that stuff is what they were big on, right? They were real big on the moonshine, and so he goes on to tell me about how basically the sheriff knew that there was a crime being committed. The sheriff knew that it was him and his brother, but the sheriff didn't have any proof. But somehow the sheriff was able to prove, or not prove, right? Because it wasn't real proof, but they put it on his father. Dad. Yeah, they put it on his father, man. Yeah. And so his father got sent to prison over something that him and his brother did. And then while in prison, his father passed away. His dad got killed. Yeah, right? Now, mind you, the sheriff did this, the sheriff put him there on some like some spiteful type stuff, right? The sheriff did it as a way of like getting back at them. So some beef naturally ensued. So my bunkie, right, my cellmate tells me, he's like, yeah. So I call, I had one of my girlfriends, or a girl that was my friend. I had her call the sheriff, and I had her set the sheriff up. He's like, I had her call the sheriff's department and say, hey, we found the bootleggers. They're up in the mountains right here, right there, and I just want to let y'all know.
Yo.
Yeah. So sheriff pulls up. Set up the sheriff, bro. Sheriff pulls up, and he said, yeah. And I caught him. Like I stepped out, the cut, and I had a rifle, and I put like 3-4 holes in him, and I killed him. And I hid that rifle in those mountains. And the crazy thing is, bro, he's telling me about this, but this ain't even the murder that he like originally got convicted for. And it hits me. I'm like, so you're telling me that you've killed more than one person? Like, and he's like, man, I've killed 8. And he didn't tell me that, right? Eventually that came out, but he goes on to tell me that he's got 8 bodies, man. He's murdered 8 people in his life. And then he goes on to tell me that, because I basically asked, I was like, wait, because eventually it came out that like, oh, these are the murders you've been convicted for. And so he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so you're telling me, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, so you're telling me that you've probably killed more than 8 people. And then in that moment, he just put his hands up. He took a step back, and he's like, listen, man, I'm at an age where I just don't want to deal with any more trials. Right? And he's like, so at this point in my life, I'm only going to talk about the shit that I've been caught and convicted for. He's like, because if I talk about anything else, I'm risking the chance of having to get pulled up out of here, sent to another courthouse, dealing with another trial. And he's like, and at this point, I'm 57 years into this. He's like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. Because when you're incarcerated, but you get, but then it's discovered that maybe you were responsible for another murder, another crime while you're incarcerated, right? You get taken away, you get taken out of the prison. You get taken back to the county in which, this crime occurred, or whatever, the city, the municipality, right? And then from there, you go on trial because, you got to go through trial in order to get convicted of a felony. And so, bro, like this man was being convicted. Like, he basically told me, he's like, yeah, I've killed more people, but I can't tell you about it out of the.
But I ain't trying to go back to trial and get sent back in here again. Exactly. I'm already in here, so I'm gonna just write this out.
Exactly, man, because like it's an inconvenience to him. It really, like, that's really what it came down to.
So.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta backtrack a little, right?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Because that's a lot. So my man's had 8 bodies, right?
Yeah.
And you had the opportunity to sleep next to a murderer. Mind you,
wild opportunity.
My man sounds like a serial killer.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. But what do you mean? What do you mean that you were sleeping next to a murderer? Like, what's your sleep setup? Like, how is it? What was the
So
stress?
yeah, so we had bunk beds, man, and I was on the top bunk. You know,
You was
naturally you give the killer the bottom bunk. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I was scared, right? Because what this man showed me was that he was willing to go places I wasn't willing to go, right?
Yeah,
You know, and he's done this before. He's very seasoned
multiple times
in taking people's lives,
Yeah,
right? And this taught me something, man. And there's a reason I wanted to talk about this today, because what this really showed me and what this really taught me was just one, how fragile life truly is, right? I ever since then I've come to compare life a lot to a flame, right? You know, if you ever light a candle, you know, and you just watch this flame, you realize that it's a powerful thing, right? It's something that can catch fire and burn down the whole world, right? One fire could burn down the whole world if we let it, you know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that flame is fragile. All it takes is just one little blow, right? Just a little gust of wind and it's gone, right? It's something powerful, but yet so fragile at the same time, right? And basically, I learned how easy dying is. And this man didn't just tell me about the murders he had committed. He was very honest about all 8 of them, bro. He broke down 8 murders to me. I sat and I got to ask him questions. I got to really converse with the man because, I mean, we're both doing time, right? We're both doing time, right? We're in the world's largest waiting room is the way that I like to, you know, describe prison. And him and I are sitting in there. And in this moment, our paths are crossing. And in this moment, he's all I've got. And I'm also all he's got. And we're just talking because this is passing the time. You know, and of course, I'm sure that he has an entirely different interpretation of what time is. And of course, in my own experience, so did I. But, man, it was wild to be able to ask this man, what leads you, what gives you the gusto to kill a person? You know, and I finally got to ask him that question. How and why? Right? Like, you're a human. You understand better than anybody because you are here alive and in love with your own existence. You understand what it's like to be human. You understand what it is to love and be loved. Yet you're willing to take that from people. Why? And he said something that sent chills through me, man. Something that I never thought would not bother me, but just like it would shake me to the core. You know, and he said, you know, I've never hurt someone that didn't do something to me. Right? He's like, I'm not that kind of man. He's like, I'm not, you know, he's like, I don't kill just for the sake of killing. He said, but when someone does me wrong, when someone hurts me or someone that I love, you know, he's like, the decision is very easy. And he's like, and in those moments, you learn that there's nothing quite like watching the life leave out of a man's eyes, especially when that man's done you wrong. And I just sat there and I thought to myself, like, man, what? And he was like, and then he looked at me, he said, because there's a difference between killing somebody or murdering somebody and taking their life. He said, when these men have done me wrong, he said, there's nothing like, you know, he's because he basically told me that the way that he, you know, one of the ways in which he liked to kill is asphyxiation, right? He liked to choke these strangulation, right? And he was like, there's nothing quite like watching a man's life leave his eyes. And he's like, and I'll be honest with you, John. Like, you know, he knew my name was Jonathan.
Oh yeah, he knew you.
He knew my name. Yeah, he knew on first name basis. Yeah. He said, and I'll tell you something, John. He said, I like it. He said, I like it. He said, I don't like it enough to just do it all willy-nilly to whoever, but you give me a reason and I'm with it. Man, I'm sitting there like, you know, in shock. Like, I'm in shock. I ain't never heard nobody tell me no shit like that, man. And it's funny because I'm sitting there and then I was like, you know what, Bunky? you gonna be all right in this cell, though. I'll tell you that. I was like, as a matter of fact, I got this brand new Kool-Aid inside my box you ain't ever had. And then I start digging for it. He's cracking up, bro. He thinks that shit is so funny. And then I really did pull out a Kool-Aid he had never had, bro. It was funny because it was a flavor that was, you know, old to me, new to him type shit. Right? And he's been incarcerated for 57 years, bro. In 57 years, he doesn't know what the internet is. He doesn't know
technology,
anything. Bro, he's been in a room.
Bro, if you don't know the internet, you don't know nothing.
You don't know nothing, bro. He asked me what the internet was.
Wow.
He asked me, he said, bro, can you explain the internet to me? And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, so the internet, and then I paused and I was like, bro, I low-key don't really know what the internet is. Like I was
like it was intelligent for
thought I was intelligent for a moment, man. But the truth is that in that moment I was like, I actually don't know how to, you know, I tried, right? And this is what I said. I was like, man, the internet's this incredible place where like you can find everything. And he's like, what? Like, and I'm like, no. It's like everything is inside of this screen. Like, I was like, well, you can communicate with everybody at the same time. And he was just like, I'm not catching it, dog. Like, and it really blew my mind because I'm like, man, this man has been incarcerated so long, bro, that like I was incarcerated for 3 years. When I came home, the Apple phone no longer had a home button. When I left, there was a home button. When I came back, there was no home button, and I was confused out of my fucking mind. I didn't know what was going on with technology. Like, I genuinely, for like the first month that I came home, there was like, I was still trying to figure out an iPhone. Mind you, I had the iPhone X before I got incarcerated. I came home to like the 12 or 13. And I mean, no, I didn't have the X. No, I had the one with the home, with the button. I don't remember what the one with the button was, but when I left, these bitches still had buttons. Right. But like in 3 years, I was confused. He's been incarcerated for 57. And so, yeah, you know, he told me a lot of things, man. You know, he told me about, you know, his first murder was that sheriff. He actually didn't get in trouble for that until like, I'm talking about almost 30 years after, like down the line. And the reason that he got in trouble is because they found his gun.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, they found the rifle that he had like put up in the wood, like he had put it up in the mountain somewhere, like he dug it between like these two rocks. He did something like that. And they found the gun and the murder. Once they found the murder weapon, it was easy to track it back down to him and to his family. So, you know, man, I called it an opportunity, but only because that opportunity gave me a chance to understand a different perspective. And it gave me an opportunity to see that like not everybody values life the way that you think people should. Right? Like for him, it was just easy to take a life. You know, and there's people out here like that. You know, there's people out here who will not think twice about taking your life, leaving your family without you, your kids. You know, like, and you know, again, you know, he taught me that even people who are willing to take lives, right? Like sometimes they got like, you know, codes that they live by, right? Like a homeboy, you know, he told me, he's like, I ain't never killed no woman. You know, I ain't never killed no child. You know, he had only killed men. And for him, that was like his line. That was his code. You know, he was like, man, I ain't out here murdering women, you know, but when a man does me wrong, I'm taking him out. You know, and, you know, like I said, life is fragile. And he made it clear to me that like, he told me, he's like, it ain't that easy. He said, it's not that hard to kill somebody. You know, he looked at me and said, it really only takes about 8 pounds of pressure to break people.
He had it down to a science.
He had it down to a science, man. He said all it took was 8 pounds of pressure. And he looked at me, he was like, man, I was always someone that worked out. I was someone that lifted weights. Mind you, he's an old man telling me this, right? He's an old man telling me this. And he's like, you know, so 8 pounds ain't shit. He's like, you know, if you can lift 8 pounds and you can move 8 pounds, then you can break people. He said, I know how to break people. Like, and you know, I'll never forget that experience. And that experience has given me a very, very different approach to individuals. I give people more respect off top just because I don't know if there could be a guy like Spot. You know what I mean? Road rage is something that everyone has. You want to get all fly with people you don't know. Remember that. You want to get crazy with people that you do not know. You could be running into a guy like him. And yeah,
especially now, man. Like people really be road rage killing is like at an all-time high lately within the
yeah.
last since the pandemic, high key.
Bro, a lot of you want to get this road rage all crazy. A lot of you want to go, you got all this road rage, but you're not really about this shit. Right? Like, you're not really about whatever you think you're about, right? I've seen, you know what I mean? I have a friend, she's like a 5'2", she's a 5'2" young individual, she's a little person, you know what I mean? Like, but her road rage is crazy. And I'm like, yo, like, someone will take you the fuck out. Like, and so I don't know what, all I'm saying is protect yourselves.
Yeah.
Protect yourselves. And and I mentioned road rage only because, when road rage is one of those examples of just you pop and fly with people you don't know.
Right.
People who are going through different things, people who are coming from different places. You don't know where these individuals' heads are at. Yet you think you just want to flick them off, or you want to beep at them all crazy. You want to roll down your window and scream all types of profanities and
yeah.
What is wrong with you? You don't know this individual. You don't know what this person is capable of. You don't know what this person just went through. You don't know if this person's wife just cheated on them, or if their father and mother and daughter and everyone just passed away in a fire. You don't know if they're on their last. If you could be the straw that broke the camel's back that day just because you want to pop fly with somebody when you ain't ready to do nothing. Are you really ready to get out this car and kill somebody? Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of yourself. Because I'm telling you, he was just one of two. He's just one, the guy that I'm talking about, Spot, he was just one of two bunkies that I had. I had two different guys that I slept with that were both murderers. They both had life in prison. I had another bunkie who had done 40. He did more than 40. He was 45 years in. He killed his wife and his wife's lover. Long story short, he told her, hey, if I ever find out you cheating, I'm going to kill you. And I don't know why she decided to go ahead and cheat anyway, but she did. And he caught her. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He caught the woman in bed with another man. He walked right over to his closet. He opened the closet, grabbed the shotgun, and killed them in cold blood right there, both of them, in the bed.
Damn.
So,
Yeah.
I had to sleep with both those guys, and those two guys taught me a lot about the world. I'm not saying it's good. But I learned something sleeping with them. And, I just wanted to tell y'all about that.
I ain't got really much to say, man. I was just listening. That sounds crazy. Crazy to the 10th degree. And then this was like, hey, man, I appreciate that story just because it lets us in, or lets me into the fact that, like, yo, you don't really know people.
No.
And sometimes even in, like you said, road rage, like we think like everyone's values life the same way, right? Like, oh, I'm just yelling at you. Oh, I'm just honking at you. Nah, man. Like, I live in Florida. This is a concealed carry gun state? Like this is a permit state. Like, you don't know who's got a strap. That's something I'm always conscious of.
I live in Ohio, where we have concealed carry is legal for everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone's allowed to conceal carry without a permit. That means that anybody can have a weapon, and it's legal. Anybody. You don't need a permit. You don't need training. You don't need nothing. You can just carry.
But at the end of it, man, I think the thing that I appreciate is like, yeah, I mean, you're just sharing, bro. That's crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't know. I could never say I will ever experience sleeping next to a murderer. That's wild. A serial killer, low key. So.
And he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot, and
what's the one thing that, like, because my thing is like, man, how like you must have. I mean, yeah, you in jail, so you're on your P's and Q's, but it's another thing to be next to a murderer, and how do your P's and Q's get even better, right? Because now, like, it's almost like you got to be friends with this guy. Not saying friends, but like, yo, I'm not trying to piss this dude off top. Like, that's not anything I'm ever trying to do.
Yeah, I think that the first thing I had to do was figure out what respect meant to him. you know, because I needed him to know that I respected him, you know, and that he had my respect, and I did my best to earn his, and I think I was able to do that. But you know, he basically told me, he was like, listen, cause you know, he would talk about the old days of prison, you know, and he would tell me about how like prison, even though it's you know, it's still crazy, you know, it used to be a lot worse. And, you know, he talked a lot about how like, man, you see a lot of these young cats walking around here thinking that they're the shit, you know, and thinking that they're badass. He said, but back in my day, you know, you wanted to walk around and act like a killer. He said the real killers would show you that you wasn't really about it. He said he told me that there used to be auctions in the prisons. He said back in his day, back in those early days, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, he said if guys was walking around acting tough, real killers would be like, you know what? You so fucking tough, get your ass up on that table. And they'd be like, man, what? I ain't getting up on no table. He said, man, get up on that table or I'm taking your life. You know, and immediately those guys that act like killers realize they not killers. Because they talking to a guy that's really talking about killing them right there, right now. He said, so guys would get up on that table. And then the guy that made them get up on that table will turn around and announce it to the whole room. Hey, I'm selling this guy. Let's start at a pack of cigarettes. And then some other guy would get up and be like, man, 2 cigarettes, 2 packs of cigarettes. And then another guy would get up talking about 3 packs of cigarettes. And you're on top of the table like, man, what? I ain't about to let nobody buy me. Like, buy me for what? Yeah, and they was buying you exactly for what you think they was buying you for. And then when you got sold, you had 1 or 2 options. You can either roll with the dude that just bought you, or you could get murdered in front of the whole prison block. Right there in front of everybody, and not a damn person gonna do anything about it. He told me stories like that. And of course, I'm sitting there thinking, geez, this is not that ain't shit that I want to be a part of. I'll tell you that. Right? Because I definitely don't walk around like I'm no killer, but I'll tell you that I'm not also, you know, it was wild season. And you know, I just wanted to tell y'all that story. And I wanted to put into perspective that just remember that not everybody values life the way that you do. And that's wisdom that I'm gonna hold near and dear and hold close to my chest. And I hope that everyone else can do the same, because you just never know who you're running into. So be careful with who you come at crazy, you know, and just know that they're out here. There's individuals out here who do not value life. That's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, man.
This moment of silence.
Yo, look, I don't know, bro. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, it's crazy to hear, and also eye-opening and even mind-opening. I can't fathom the feeling of waking up and seeing that dude every day, right? Like, and knowing that, like, yo, I gotta be best friends with you, bro, because you're the definition of a real killer.
Real killer.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man. Yeah, I appreciate you listening, C's, and I appreciate you letting me vent about that. You know, because my wanting to talk about this issue really did stem from road rage. It really it did really stem from road rage. I recently had an experience where I was driving with someone, and they flew off the handle on some road rage, and I'm in the car with them, you know, and you know they put me in danger that day, you know, because of the kind of road rage that they had. And mind you, this individual who was going through this little rage wasn't a person that I thought, it's like, you're punching above your weight class right now. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the things that you're doing, the things that you're saying, the way that you're acting is you can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that. So that's where that came from. And so that's why I was so motivated to have this episode today. So, you know, with that being said, guys, you know, because we wanted to make this a short one, we wanted to get into the...
You have 1 minute remaining.
All right. I mean, I can start off.
Yeah, go ahead. I talked enough. You start this.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Look, man. So there's something I learned here. You know what I'm saying? There's something I was like preaching the last like week or so when I was with the boys. Hey, man, there's 2 things you can't buy in this world: love and respect. Right? And those 2 things can be valued like gold. Like it can weight. The weight of that is like gold in anybody's hands. And we're listening to Jono about trying to figure out how he could show this man that was a murderer, serial killer, that he respected him, reinforce that thought. Because you can't buy those two things, man. You can't. I mean, yeah, you could, but like it's not real respect and that's not real love. Like the things that I've learned throughout life is like, and you learn them the easy way and the hard way too. Like love and respect go a long way, and man, like you don't know how much that can mean to somebody. Like they could either be rich or poor, but like those two things can really like shed light into someone's life in a way that maybe they've never received love in the correct manner or respect, right? And a lot of us are usually fighting for one of those two, if you really think about it. So, hey, man, just value those two things and see if you can move better with those two, right? Like it don't matter what you know, what you don't know, what degree you got, what job you got, like, but if you can't love and respect the people around you, you'll never get those, or people won't respect you or love you. Like
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Wow, no, I appreciate that. And my 1 minute rant is kind of almost a piggyback, but guys, don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't punch above your weight class. If you ain't about that life, then sit your ass down. You know what I mean? Like sit your ass down. It's kind of like like not to get into politics, but you see a lot of these guys in the Republican Party running for president, right? But they don't want to like come out and just like go hard because they're afraid of Donald Trump. It's like, bro, either come out here and run for this presidency or sit your ass down. You know what I mean? Like, like stop, don't punch above your weight class if you're not about it. And so
if you're not ready,
and so like like I just want to say that guys, like be aware of who you are, be aware of who's around you, be aware of what you're willing to and not to do, and then let that guide you accordingly. But don't put yourselves at risk. Again, I'm touching on that road rage. Cut that shit out. All right, cut that shit out. A lot of y'all want to sit here. Like, I know people that'll follow people that cut them off. And like, I know people that'll sit there and cuss and scream and yell at people who are just driving on the road. And it's like, man, 9 times out of 10, these people not trying to like, it's not like it's a personal vendetta against you, right? Like if you get cut off on the highway, like I've been the one to cut people off on the highway, and like, it's not personal. It's not that I wanted to cut off this Chevy right here. Like it had nothing to do with the fact that it was you. Like it'd have been any motherfucker that have been there. I'm late to work. Like I'm late to work. Anybody could have got cut off, right? It's not personal. Like it's, so people take it personal. And again, I just want to say, guys, don't be careful with that. Be careful. Y'all all know the times we're living in, right? Everyone's loaded with weapons. I mean, people are shooting up schools, guys. Kids are getting shot at school. You think anybody give a damn about you? Like they're killing kids.
You can get it too.
They're killing kids. I can assure you that if someone's willing, like if kids are getting murdered, you don't stand a chance. All right. So please be aware of that and be careful. So guys,
all right, y'all.
Yeah.
Rant out.
Rant out.